Hey y'all, NOLA.com's digital sports producer Jeff Nowak here for a quick pre-game live chat before Saints Bears wildcard round playoff matchup at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, kicking off at 3:40 p.m. over on CBS, Prime Video, and Nickelodeon. If you haven't checked it out yet, we have a post up on our site written by yours truly that kind of goes through some of the craziness that will be on that Nickelodeon broadcast today. It's not for the faint of heart. Some of the overlays you'll have there are pretty intense, but we're here to talk more about the game than the broadcast, but I'm just vamping for a couple seconds to make sure everyone can get on the live chat. Looks like we have a good number on there. Make sure if you have any questions, comments, concerns, hot takes, score predictions, throw them in the chat. I'll try to get to them in the back half of the live chat here. Very interested to see how confident y'all are for the Saints in this matchup. Yet another rematch in the playoffs. I looked it up yesterday. This will be the 8th rematch for the Saints over the past decade from a game they had in the regular season. They've played 11 playoff games dating back to 2010. 8 of them have been rematches from the regular season. They're 8-1 in the regular season game of those, and they are 3-4 in the playoff rematch. The reason there are more regular season games is because one of them came against the Panthers, which is a team they play twice in the regular season. They swept them in the regular season and then beat them in the playoffs. That was 2018 on the way to the NFC Championship. No, I'm sorry. That was 2017, and they lost in the divisional round to the Vikings. And obviously, they haven't played the Bears yet this year, but it is another playoff rematch from a game from a team they faced in the regular season. Saints won that matchup 26-23 in overtime. Will Lutz kicked the game winner. And, it's tough because you look at that team that the Saints beat and you look at the team they're bringing in today, and it's going to look a lot different on the offensive side of the ball. You have a different quarterback. In that matchup, you had Nick Foles, who I think is a solid NFL quarterback, but he's not Mitch Trubisky in the sense that he's not extending plays with his legs. He's not running the read option, or at least not as good at running the read option. He's not as effective because he's not mobile. He's not running as many RPOs that you'll see from the Bears today with Mitch Trubisky. So it's going to be a much different situation. From the Saints side of things, they're also a much different team than you saw in that matchup, mainly because they are about as healthy today as they have been all season. This was true in that matchup, and it's been true in most matchups of the season. They were without several key players. This time around, they're getting, everyone back. Last week, they played without the entire running back room. You saw Ty Montgomery and Tony Jones getting the snaps there. This week, you have Latavius Murray, Dwayne Washington, who, I don't know if he's going to get any snaps, but he is available. Michael Burton is back. Alvin Kamara activated yesterday. He will be on the field in some capacity today. It remains to be seen exactly how much he will be used in the game plan, but he is around. He is there to be taken advantage of, and we'll see what happens. On the other, in the wide receiver room, you have Michael Thomas, Deontay Harris, both coming back from their trip to injured reserve. They went on after Week 15 with the goal of making sure they got into this matchup healthy. And by all accounts, that is what happened. The Saints' gamble paid off there because the Packers didn't end up losing anyway. So that Week 15 matchup against the Chiefs really didn't end up mattering. The best case scenario, if the Packers won out after the after the Saints lost to the Eagles in Week 15, was the 2 seed. And that's exactly what they got. The Saints have the 2 seed. They are hosting the Chicago Bears, and they're going to have, at least, if they win today, they'll have at least one more playoff game at home. And you just go into that hoping that Michael Thomas is as healthy as he can possibly be. He's been dealing with an ankle injury all season. He suffered it in Week 1 against the Bucs. He missed the next 7 games. He didn't come back until the Saints faced the Bucs again in Week 9. And it's clearly been something that he just hasn't been able to get right. And you hope that 3 weeks on the shelf has allowed him to do that. And as you go through the playoffs, you end up seeing the Michael Thomas we remember, the Michael Thomas that set every record for catches and last year, when I think he caught 148 passes, set the NFL record by a long shot, and he did it in a much more efficient way than the person he passed in Marvin Harrison. So you hope that that's something that they can get right. And Deontay Harris in the return game, also a big thing. On the defensive side of the ball, the Saints are also getting back Marcus Williams, safety. He has been out with an ankle injury since that Week 15 loss to the Chiefs. And That's a big piece in the secondary. They ran out guys like Grant Haley last week. PJ Williams has been taking on a bigger role because CJ Gardner-Johnson was also out last week. He was on the COVID reserve list, as was DJ Swearinger. CJ Gardner-Johnson is also back. So Patrick Robinson as well, also coming off injured reserve. So this is a Saints team that is finally putting the roster on the field that they thought they would have, other than Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is the only surprise, I guess you could phrase it, inactive this week. Nick Easton is also out with a concussion. We knew that he wasn't going to play early in the week. He's been placed on injured reserve. So for him to come back, if he does, the only option would be the Super Bowl if they got there. He will be out for at least, because he will be out this week and next week. I'd have to check. He might be eligible to come off before the NFC Championship, depending if they will retroactively apply his first week. But who knows? Either way, the Saints are getting back a lot of guys, and they will have to account for the loss of Nick Easton today. But let's hop over to the live file, and I want to go through a few quick notes here. Obviously, Saints are a favorite in this game. They're 9.5-point favorites, which is not surprising. They just have been a very, very consistent group this season after those two losses early. That week 14 kind of dud against the Eagles is an outlier, but even against the Chiefs with a very undermanned squad, they held up. And I think that generally speaking, you should expect the Saints to win comfortably today. But as we've seen in the playoffs, you never know. So let's keep going down here. Again, that game is on Nickelodeon. If y'all want to try to watch it there will be overlays and slime. It's going to be here. Let's pop into this post here, and I'll give you a quick look at what you might be expecting. Oh no, hold on. Let me pull that up. So Nickelodeon, what will that broadcast look like? Well, based on the promo materials they sent out, it'll look something like this. You're going to end up with overlays. You're going to end up with kid-friendly stuff. You got the Nick Blimp there. You're going to have these weird Minecraft-looking replays, jet trails on the ball, smoke, SpongeBob between the uprights, celebrations, and then obviously slime. Sean Payton was asked about playing on Nickelodeon. He said he was, happy to see it. He didn't actually find out they were on Nickelodeon until he saw a tweet about him potentially getting slimed after the game. And he did say that he was down to be slimed if the Saints win. So who knows? We might see, instead of a Gatorade bath, Sean Payton might get a slime bath after the game. But that will be seen as we go. But coming down here, a few things to know. We have some numbers to know. So 3,000. That's the number of fans that will be in the stadium. Earlier in the year, the goal was to try to get 15,000 people in the stands as you kind of work toward just getting noise in the stadium despite the coronavirus pandemic. But, the numbers recently have gotten worse and worse and worse, and that just never materialized. They're still at 3,000, which has been the case for most of the season. I think they had one game with 6,000, but it's been 3,000. There'll be some people with noise. I have a friend who actually flew down from my native home of New England to come to watch. He's a big Saints fan. He came down to see the game. He paid a pretty penny for those tickets. So I think that there will be a good amount of noise there. I think that there's going to be a lot of energy in that stadium for only having 3,000 people, but who knows if it's going to be enough to actually impact the game. The most striking result that stands out was week 3 against the Packers, where Aaron Rodgers just came in and did whatever he wanted because he could communicate with his line in ways that you would never have seen in a game like that with a packed Superdome. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is that type of guy, but just something to keep an eye out for as you go through the playoffs. The Bucs won. The Bucs beat the Washington football team. The Rams beat the Seahawks. So that lineup will end up being if the Saints beat the Bears today, they will end up hosting the Bucs next week. The Packers would end up hosting the Rams. If the Bears win, then that would kind of get shuffled, and the Packers would host the Bears. Then the Bucs would host the Rams. But hey, who cares? If that happens, none of y'all will have to worry about it because you won't be watching anyway. But that's going to be the case. So we're going forward. Obviously, we mentioned 11, 13, 41. Those are the players coming back. Deontay Harris, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. 5. The number of sacks the Saints rolled up last time they faced the Chicago Bears. They're gonna be at odds with the fact that they don't have Trey Hendrickson today. You're going to be relying on Marcus Davenport, Carl Granderson, David Onyemata, guys in the middle and Sheldon Rankis to kind of get that push. It'll be interesting to see how they hold up If it's bad news for anybody, it's bad news for Cam Jordan, because Trey Hendrickson's emergence, one of the biggest impacts it's had for him specifically is he's getting fewer double teams, getting fewer chips off the line. And you kind of just got to see what happens there. But it's going to be something to watch. Mitch Trubisky is a bit better at getting outside the pocket. So 8, we talked about the number of times the Saints have faced, the number of times in the past decade, the Saints have had a playoff matchup against the team they also faced in the regular season. One more, 500. Drew Brees is currently 8-8 in the playoffs in his career. There have been rumors, there have been reports that he's leaning toward retirement. And if he wins today, if that is the case, if he wins today, he will guarantee himself no worse than a career 500 record in the playoffs, even if they lose in the divisional round. And it doesn't really mean that much in the long run, but I think that generally speaking, you don't want to finish your career with a sub 500 record in the playoffs. So that's something that'll happen today as he inches toward his 42nd birthday this coming week. I'm not sure if I got to it before, but I do want to mention, I want to thank Hancock Whitney Bank for sponsoring these live chats, helping us bring them to y'all. I really enjoyed doing them. I'm going to get some of y'all comments in a moment as we go through the score predictions here. And I'll see if y'all have any popped in there. Okay, here's one. Yaheem Beal, 42-10 Saints. I think that the Saints are going to come out and prove a point today. I think that this is not going to be a close game. And I think that Jaheim, whether the Saints put up 42, I think that the defense is really going to come out and show off today. And I don't think the Bears are going to, if they get a turnover and they get some, they get a big return, they get good field position, maybe they put up 14, 17. But I think it's going to be a low scoring day for the Bears, with the Saints defense just flying around the field, finally getting these guys back. Our expert predictions, we have our 2 beat writers and our columnist. All 3 are pretty confident on the Saints today. Amy Just has it 35-22. Luke Johnson has it 30-20. Rod Walker has it 28-17. I'm gonna go 35-14. I think 35. Let's say 13. I think the Bears miss an extra point or something. But that's about what I'm gonna go with. Again, I don't think it's gonna be close. I think they're gonna take control early and really lean on the Bears in the second half. If you're looking to follow along with this post, just head over to NOLA.com, NOLA.com/sports/Saints, and you can check out all of this. We have a live updates feed here, which I'll pop onto with a scoreboard and kind of just let go through as we keep going. And I'll start hitting some of your comments here. Aaron Johnson, stand up, let's go. Jerry, back again. Jerry is always in here, and I appreciate you. Good to see you, Jerry. Do I have Instagram? We have a NOLA Saints Instagram if you want to check that out. I have an Instagram, but I'm not very active on it, so you don't need to. You don't want to be following me. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, that is where I post a lot throughout the game, and I'll be posting clips, replays, analysis. So if you want to hit me up on there, it's at Jeff_Nowak. Someone stole my name, so I had to put the line in there. But hey, worse things have happened. As we mentioned before, Chris, yep, the game is over on Nickelodeon, also on Prime Video. But yeah, if you want to check it out on Nickelodeon, it's a free broadcast online. I can't remember the actual website, but if you Google it, you should find it. It's not for the faint of heart, but it'll be fun to watch. I'm gonna pop over into it throughout the game and see what's happening. Maybe share some clips and screenshots. But for the most part, I think any diehard Saints fan is not gonna be loving the Nickelodeon version of the broadcast as you watch what could be Drew Brees' final game. But hey, it's neat to be on there. It's neat that the Saints got that attention. And, you do wonder if maybe that broadcast decision was part of them getting that Sunday matchup, which was important because that is why you were able to get Alvin Kamara available today. If they had played one of the Saturday time slots, Alvin Kamara would not have had the opportunity to play. That was actually the case with the Bucs. The Bucs were in a very similar situation with Devin White, who was not cleared from the protocol, and he couldn't be active because he wasn't going to be cleared until Sunday. And so the Bucs played without him last night, and it ended up being a pretty solid game. I mean, Washington football team, the Fighting Taylor Heineke's, they put up a fight. And, that if they had lost that game and you look back and you're like, wow, we didn't have Devin White because they put us on a Saturday, that would have been a gripe. But the Saints don't have to wonder about that with Alvin Kamara. He is out there. Got RJ, who dat, Saints Nation, let's win. There you go. Is Michael Thomas at high risk of re-injury? It's always tough. It's always tough with a high ankle, and that's part of the reason why you shut him down for the final 3 weeks of the season, because high ankle sprains are notoriously easy to re-injure. He was playing at a high level when he went on injured reserve. He didn't go on injured reserve because he couldn't keep going. I'm sure he could have gutted it out and tried to finish the season, but then you go to the playoffs. You know that your chances of getting the 1 seed weren't that high anyway. So that week of rest wasn't worth trying to get that week of rest. Was not worth him trying to battle through that injury and potentially going into the playoffs maybe 60%, 70% of what he would want to be. So you give him the 3 weeks off and hope that he gets back, and by the time he plays, that risk to re-injure that ankle is not as steep, it's not as significant, and we'll see what happens. I think when you talk about Michael Thomas today, regardless of what he puts out in terms of statistical production, I think the biggest thing you're looking for is, does he get through the game healthy? Does he have to take snaps off? Does he tweak that ankle and then you're back where you started? That's the real concern in terms of what could happen in this game, other than obviously losing. But I don't think that his re-injury risk is any greater than what you saw earlier in the season. But the hope for the Saints is that he is 100%. He is not limited. And, hopefully those 3 weeks off helped him get to the point where that he's kicked that injury. And we'll have to see. Spring Lake, Michigan in the house. Good to see you, Cheryl. Annie around here. Let's go. Okay, we got let's go with, I think, 12 X's. That's pretty solid commitment there. If you don't, I agree with this. I think if you're watching this on cable and you have a chance to just pop over to Nickelodeon and see what's happening, do it. I mean, I think it might not be where you want to watch the game. You might not want to be dealing with all that noise, but I think it's pretty neat, and it's geared toward kids. It's geared toward families, getting kids more engaged in the sport. If you go to the website, they have a bunch of live trivia and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. I don't have any young kids, but if I did, I think that that would be kind of a cool thing to, if you're watching the game and you're trying to keep your kids from running around the house being maniacs, and they have some entertainment on there and SpongeBob keeps popping up, maybe that helps. I don't know. But I think it's pretty cool that there is an outlet like that. Tennessee in the house. I have to say, Susan, I'm glad you're not a Titans fan, because they lost today. First round matchup, they lost 2013, or that's what it was when I last looked up. There have been a lot of good games so far in the playoffs, and my prediction is that the Saints will end that streak. This will not be a good game. This will be a boring game from a national perspective, but I think the Saints blowing out the Bears, which I believe will happen today, is going to be fun for Saints fans who have dealt with not just, playoff losses, but just every game stressful. I think that this is going to be one of the first times in a while you get through a playoff matchup as a Saints fan without having to take your blood pressure medication at halftime. All right. Wow, this is a long one. Hi, and Ola from Guatemala. Nice to have you here. I'm not even going to try to say your name, but glad to have you here. Bears are going to put up a fight today, but we're going to take care of business. Yeah, so let's get into the Bears a little bit. The Bears, they have two really solid weapons on offense, not including Mitch Trubisky, the quarterback. One is Allen Robinson, who I personally believe is a top 10 wide receiver. I think he gets overlooked way too often when you're talking about that top tier, but he is in it. He is a legit star wide receiver in the NFL, and the only thing holding him back has been playing his entire career with guys named Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles for the first half of this season. His health is something to look at. He came into the week with a hamstring injury. He practiced in full on Wednesday. He didn't practice on Thursday, and he got into limited work on Friday. He didn't have a game day designation, which means he's expected to go. But that's something to watch. But he's legit. David Montgomery, a running back, another really, really good player. He had a really good start against the Saints in Week 8, but he kind of tailed off in the second half, which is when the Saints kind of took control of that game. But those are the guys that you have to shut down. Marshawn Lattimore is probably going to lock horns with Allen Robinson. We'll see how that matchup goes. Darnell Mooney is out, so that's a loss for the Bears. And Roquan Smith from reports I've seen, he is out for today. That's a significant loss for them, but they still have, they still have guys who can get after you. Khalil Mack is still a top linebacker in the NFL, and if you don't account for him up front, he will be in Drew Brees' grill all night, and you don't want to have to deal with him. He can force a turnover and change the complexion of this game in a heartbeat. What the Saints want to avoid is getting behind in this game. You want to just get out in front early, stamp out any hope the Bears have, and not have to, like I said, deal with that hand wringing down the stretch. You just want to put this away and get out of here as healthy as possible, so that next week you can go up against the Bucs and figure it out. But we'll see. If the Bears get after Drew Brees early and force a couple turnovers, this could end up being just another one of those Saints stressful playoff matchups like we've seen so many times the last few years. San Francisco, Beverly, good to have you. Philly, where were you? Where were you a few weeks ago? They could have used some help out there in Philly. Thanks for being here, Joe. Yeah, Nate, I agree with you. I don't know if scary is the word. I think the Saints, when you look at the Saints roster, one of the things that really jumps out is the build of the defensive line. The construction there is just really, really solid. It's just perfectly built for the 4-3. You don't have any real speed rushers, but they just have a ton of guys who, A, can get to the quarterback, and B, excel at playing the run as they get to the quarterback. David Onyemata has been wrecking games in the middle all season long, the Manitoba Monster, as I affectionately call him. And I don't think that, as good as Trey has been, I think that the Saints are built very well to account for being without him. Carl Granderson has performed incredibly well when he's been called upon. He held up really well in the Chiefs game. He had 2 sacks to Patrick Mahomes in that game. Actually, I think it was 1. He was in on the sack fumble that went to Trey Hendrickson in the second half. But, if Trey doesn't get there, Carl Granderson's coming from the other side to light him up. So he's a guy who can get to the quarterback very quickly. When he gets upfield, he gets there fast. He's got really good bend, really good flexibility to kind of swim around blocks on the edges and get there. And so I think you're going to hear Carl Granderson's name a lot today. But no, Trey Hendrickson has been a stud all season. Should have been in the Pro Bowl. And so for him, from his perspective, I think you really hope that this is a 1-week thing where he can get back for the divisional round, assuming the Saints get there, and you're again at full strength on that front. Okay, going forward. Yeah, I think this is a good point. I think, obviously, as we mentioned, Alvin Kamara is active, but he has not been at practice for a week and a half. He's been learning the game plan over Zoom, and you have to imagine to some extent he will not be as involved as he would be otherwise. And the good news on that front is the Saints are immensely confident in Latavius Murray, and they have every reason to be that way. There's a reason they paid him. There's a reason that he's, heavily involved every week. And it's because he's a really good running back. He's a guy who you want in these kind of ground and pound matchups where you just want to get dirty between the tackles, and he's going to do that. Last year against the Bears, Alvin Kamara was out, and Latavius Murray had his best game. He had his best game until the Broncos game this year, but I want to say he had 100-something yards, couple touchdowns, and he's more than capable of fulfilling that role. And so I think, especially early in the game, especially on early downs, you're going to see a lot of Latavius Murray, and I don't think the Saints will be hurt by doing that. And so I think that's a good point. Latavius Murray could be in line for a big game today, or at the very least a big number of touches. All right, we're getting down towards the end here. Yeah, Jay, that's a good point. When Michael Thomas came back in Week 9 against the Bucs, he didn't have big production. He didn't have big production in Week 10 against the 49ers. So there is a risk of you bring Michael Thomas in and he's just not up to speed and he struggles early in the game. But I think Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas. When he was in Week 15, the final game before he went out, he was playing as well as he has all season. He had a good rapport with Taysom Hill. And, Taysom Hill, I don't think we've mentioned him yet. He left against the Panthers with a concussion, but he was back fully at practice, and he will be a go today. And I think, when you look at what benefit could the Saints have from having to start Taysom Hill for 4 games in the middle of the season? Well, in previous seasons, every time you throw Taysom Hill back there at quarterback, he just seems uncomfortable. He seems like he's running a play he's only seen once. He's only even out there for once, and he's just locking onto a read. He's not, going through his progressions, and he ends up scrambling or essentially just chucking it to Mike, because that's always a good option. I think when you go into the playoffs and you're really looking at your offensive options, him getting those reps is incredibly valuable going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if in one of these playoff matchups, even today, you end up seeing Taysom Hill go out there and, have a few snaps in a row as opposed to, one quarterback snap, because you feel a little more comfortable with his kind of expanded game plan that you were able to install in actual games. In the previous seasons, they've only been able to do that in the preseason. And this time around, they had to do that under fire, under pressure. And while he went 3-1 in those games, and while that Eagles loss was a tough one, I think that is invaluable experience when you're trying to catch a team in situations that they just couldn't possibly have prepared for. And I think that will be one of them. So whether it happens today, whether it happens next week against the Bucs, if they get there, I would keep an eye out for that. I think one of these games you're going to see Taysom Hill quarterback, not in place of Breeze, but for extended periods rather than that one-off snap. Going through a lot of whodats, as I always appreciate. Let's see. Oh, we got a whodat in Maryland. Another resident of a state with a losing playoff team, as the Bucs took out the Washington football team. I almost called them by that former name. And, they might have found something in Taylor Heineke there. He was fun to watch last night. I don't know if anyone caught that matchup. He threw for 306 yards, led a couple really nice scoring drives. He had Washington in that game. The defense couldn't get off the field in the second half, but he gave them a chance. And I came away impressed for a team that doesn't have a ton of weapons, and just turned to a guy that most people would have called Heineken before the game. More like Heineken, am I right? Anyway. Sai from Dallas. Okay, here's one that I'll get to, and then we can clock out of here and get ready for kickoff. Who is the biggest X factor in this game for the Saints? And I'll give you two. I'll give you one on the offensive side of the ball, one on the defensive side of the ball. When you're looking at offense, I'm going to go with this is a tough one. I'm going to go with Deontay Harris. I think the return game this season has been fine, but there haven't been those kind of explosive plays without him in the lineup. And it's impossible to replicate getting the ball at your own 45 because Deontay Harris just took a punt return that should have gone for, -5 back for 40 yards and set you up in perfect field position. And in a game where you expect it to be kind of low scoring, you expect the Bears to try to milk the clock, those short field possessions are incredibly valuable. If I'm going X Factor 1B, I think Will Lutz is a guy that, he's had a really tough second half. He's missed a lot of kicks. He missed an extra point. He missed a couple inside the 40, which is just something you've never seen happen from Will Lutz. And just look at the game between the Bills and the Colts yesterday. The Colts kicker missed from 33. He planked it off the uprights. Rodrigo Blankenship, rookie kicker. Then on the other side, the Bills rookie kicker out of Georgia Southern, I can't recall his name. He was just hit a bomb from 53 yards. That was a 3-point game. I mean, that can be the difference in the game. That was the difference in the game. And when you're looking at a guy who has been as consistent as anyone his entire career, the struggles in the second half have really been, I don't want to say concerning, but they kind of rock that just confidence you have in being able to say, okay, it doesn't matter where we are on the field. If we're within 55, we have confidence Will Lutz is going to just knock it through. And you don't really feel that way right now. There's a Q&A with Darren Rizzi, the Saints special team coordinator, up on the site now if you want to check it out. And he came out and said, I am not worried about Will Lutz whatsoever. Will Lutz is still Will Lutz. And, for the sake of the Saints kind of getting to the Super Bowl, you hope that's true. Because if these games come down to a game-winning kick, you hope that the supreme confident Will Lutz is there and not the kind of shaky guy that you've seen the last few weeks. So if I'll give you those two. On defense, I'm going to say Carl Granderson, as I said before. Carl Granderson is a guy who gets to the quarterback very fast, and when he gets there, he makes it count. So I'll keep an eye out for him. I don't know how they're going to split up Marcus Davenport, Cam Jordan, and Granderson. Trey Hendrickson is usually that guy who you who you shipped inside on those NASCAR packages. I don't know who that's going to be. It could be Granderson. It could be, more likely it'll be Davenport because he's not the speed guy around the edge that Granderson is. But who knows? I think one way or another, you're going to end up with Carl Granderson as being that X factor. And if he has an impact today, the Saints could really make it hurt for the Bears for Mitch Trubisky. One more score prediction. Well, actually, we got Narina in here. Good to have you. One more score prediction. Saints 35-7. Yeah, I mean, I think most guys aren't. Most viewers, especially from the Saints side, are not expecting a close game. I'm there with you, but we'll have to see what happens. We got kickoff in about 23 minutes over on CBS, Prime Video, Nickelodeon. Again, my name's Jeff Nowak, NOLA.com's digital sports producer. I'd like to thank our sponsor one more time because they appreciate when I do that. Hancock Whitney Bank for helping us bring all these live chats. As we go through the playoffs, assuming the Saints don't lose today, we're going to be coming back with you tomorrow for a takeaways live chat with hopefully Luke Johnson, one of our beat writers, and maybe one or two more. So keep an eye out for that. We try to bring you at least 4 or 5 of these every week. So we appreciate everyone who watches, everyone who pitches in a comment, and thanks, y'all. I'm going to let y'all get to kickoff, and I have a fancy lead out video for you. Again, Jeff Nowak, NOLA.com, digital sports producer. Thanks, y'all. Peace.